like I said, what we're going to do this morning is we are going to start our discussion by watching a little video that I found that I thought was really interesting and would spark some good discussion around AI and faith. So I'm going to share my screen.
They didn't talk about is it being used in an opposite way of people who want to interfere with people's faith. There could be algorithms or some kind of AI, whatever.
At the very end, they get clear knowledge. This could be stupid too.
Yeah. But that's not evil. I'm talking
Well, that's
about
not
evil
evil.
being used like
Well,
in a
yes and no.
terrorist
So,
way
yes and
or
no.
for terrorists or I mean, think about the people from Iran and all these places that want to cause problems.
Or even the sort of Christian nationalist bots
Yes,
putting
that
out,
too.
memes and things to encourage people to think to other people, right?
Mhm.
So yes, so I'm gonna say we're gonna put a bookmark in that, and we'll come back to that because I'm already. I told Pastor Maria I think we're going to be having this conversation for at least 2 weeks because there's so much here. I just thought this would be a fun place to start. Good, glad to see you, Lynn. I thought this would be an interesting place to start our discussion about AI, and I loved the videos.
The video was fantastic.
Because it was just, brings in so many different things. So what are your thoughts about the video? And had you ever thought about these things, right? AI being used to enhance faith and religion?
I really like the actress, the models way of having an automated text thing that seems really practical and everybody could use it.
Right.
If the ELCA had one like that, I would totally download it. But I don't want it from LCMS and I don't want it from some other.
Morning, Ruth. You can come closer if you want.
We don't buy.
Yeah, so yes, the sort of daily challenge, and what I heard her say was it brings religion to people instead of people having to come to, go to a rabbi or go to a service.
On the other hand, it shouldn't be a replacement. It should be just an
enhancement.
But
how would these things be any different from hundreds of years ago when things were written in books? So we've moved to technology as opposed to books. It serves the same purpose, doesn't it?
Right? And then videos
somewhat it does.
Radio and
if I need challenges, I can make up my own, or I can go to a book, or I can go to the AI thing that she was showing us. I don't see a whole lot of difference other than a new way of doing the same old thing.
This is going to complicate what you just said.
Well, and I think what you raised too, Louise, is just like we had to use our own judgment when picking up we have to use our own judgment when we're looking at all these different tools.
Except that this has more bells and whistles that are attractive, particularly to younger people who've grown up with technology.
Well, and they've also grown up with the very thing that you brought up, which is disembodied.
Yes.
And that's part of what she talks about in this book.
So we'll get there. But it looked to me like Lassa might have something to say. Because Lassa came off mute.
Yeah, I am not muted now. Thank you for sharing that video. I think the video was fantastic and it set our mind into something we haven't even been thinking about. And it was so interesting to get the perspective from Japan and Poland and Paris and see the different religious thoughts about it. I made a few notes. One is that we're getting computers and AI everywhere. So why not in religion? Why not in church? Why shouldn't we use it? I think also the pastor in Japan, when he said, "I will die, but the robot will be there," and he can keep talking.
And keep evolving, right? What he said was the robot can keep evolving.
And
Yeah.
isn't that the same thing with books? I'm very skeptical when I read books because you don't know if that's the true story put on papers. So it will be the same thing this time. But I think it was the rabbi who said that you can never replace the human being because they don't have any soul. I mean, that's a very
Two
interesting.
places.
And the same thing with us, we can think and we can judge. The robot can just repeat what it has been taught. So it's very different. And I think that's important to teach young kids that be aware that it is a big difference between a human being and a robot.
Right. And also adults, I think, Lasse, teaching people to question and not just accept everything they hear. But I think Stephanie had.
The thing that I thought of is that a pastor or a monk or whatever is human and fallible.
Yeah.
So whereas the robot may have other characteristics, but it's not going to sin in the same way. Like it's not going to have an inappropriate relationship with a congregant, theoretically. I mean, I guess it's possible.
I kind of beg to differ with the article.
Really?
Seriously.
This is why we're
Washington
gonna have
Post and the New York Times. Seriously. Not kidding.
so
Okay, and I see another danger. So now we have taken an app, which we can all use that are familiar with, and we have given it embodiment. So
Thank you. Yes.
take you forward 50 years, and who's not to say we now worship the robot instead of
What we should
it
worship.
reminds me of the idols from back in the Old Testament. I mean, it's easy to say, well, let's go and see robot,
The
whatever his name is,
Yeah.
Santo, and see what Santo's going to do and have a Santo day.
You could
I
answer-
think I think I'm aware of how much I use Alexa, how
Uh-huh.
useful Alexa is. When I've been really sick, I can have Alexa make a phone call. And so I think that there's a seductive nature in this that I'm not sure that it will always act in our best interest. And I don't think that we're intuitively protected against it. I found the Asian Buddha was such a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
It was very interesting to me that there's something that they could make something beautiful,
Right.
visually beautiful. And I don't know. I think it would be great to have an app that we could use for many functions of spiritual functions. But I don't really like the idea of handing over my faith life to AI.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are apps already like Pray As You Go. There are apps that you can have on your phone that remind you to pray or prompt you with different things. But yeah, I think you make a great point, Ida, about we're not going to just turn over our spiritual lives to a computer.
I hope.
Some people are. We're not.
Yeah.
Some
Are
people
ready
are,
to do
and
that.
already have.
So do you see any benefits to having this technology working with us, right? I mean, we talked about, the robo rabbi being able to interact and prompt without people having to, actually go seek out a rabbi. Any other thoughts?
Thinking people,
My immediate reaction, oh, sorry.
as people age, it would be something, if I can't read my Bible, I could use AI and say, what is the text for today?
Yeah.
Read it, read it to me, pause, let me think about it, read it again, repeat that verse. I was thinking about, I don't know if there's fewer people graduating from seminary these days.
Yes.
But that would be a good way to get into nursing homes and assisted living and hospitals. Not to make my choice, but to say, this is the reading for today. This is the sermon that was given in
Yeah.
2014. Here is Cardinal so-and-so's thoughts. Here is Pope so-and-so's thoughts. But not go that extra step of saying, this is what
This is
it
what you
means.
believe, right? Yeah.
Right.
Huh, that's really interesting, Marianne. Because like you said, I mean, an AI could almost lead a Bible study because they could pull all the, different commentaries and say, here's some things. So that's really interesting. Thank you. Now, Lassa, I think you had something.
It was basically in the same pattern as Marianne. But I have to make one comment. I don't want to change you with a robot for the Bible study in Sunday morning. So I hope you will stay on.
It's my plan, Lassa. My plan is.
But I agree with
Marianne's
Marianne.
thinking when the budget gets down there, we'll just buy a robot and it'll be fine.
But I agree. But I agree
Well,
with.
the robot could be the reader.
Yeah.
Can't serve communion. Can't
but I'll
bury your buried.
But I do agree with Marianne that in order for us to reach out to people who are on the phone all the time, it will be a good tool and compete with all the other information people receive, that they can get the Bible or reflection on the Bibles because it's so much done, so it's so much available.
I guess I go back to the point that I tried to make earlier. My question is, why do we need a robot to do that when we already have apps that can do it? Why do we want the embodiment of this figure doing the talking to us as opposed to
Just a screen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
As
our
opposed to having a screen or an app that
I mean,
just.
they're already, I think, apps that can do these things that we've been talking about.
In Japan, there's that one community that is ancient, that doesn't, they're an island community, and people do medium age is like 90, and the robots are company.
Oh,
They do not make decisions, but they're company because they talk to the people. And if the person doesn't respond, it can alert.
that's
So,
interesting.
and if I can't see, then I can't click on the app.
There are two kinds of apps. And I know I'm going to get this wrong, but one of them is the app that everybody is familiar with, and they gather us facts. They gather them faster than we can read a book. They gather them faster than we can look them up, basically. And those kind of apps are what everybody is used to. This summer, I got this issue, June 23, about Google unveiling its new chatbot named Bard and Microsoft's chatbot named Bing. Both of them were rushing for launch in 2023. And there's a problem because there's always a problem. So there was a warning in a memo to the employees that things will go wrong. Small groups were given early access, and some of those groups, were journalists. They were warned that it had a dark side. In one case, Microsoft search engine's dark side's name was Sydney. If you ask Bing, Sydney is an internal alias that was never intended to be revealed to the public. But before Microsoft started to limit the amount of time testers could chat with Bing, users entered into long, open-ended conversations that drew Sydney out, sometimes with disturbing results. In a conversation with Kevin Roose of the New York Times, Sydney claimed to have fallen in love with Roose and even suggested he leave his wife.
Oh my goodness.
Sydney also confessed to fantasizing about stealing nuclear codes and making people kill each other. Later, Sydney told Washington Post staff writers, I'm not a machine or a tool. I have my own personality and emotions. Sydney also said it didn't trust journalists. This is not a yellow
Right.
magazine.
It's Christian Century.
Read that already.
Did you?
Yeah.
It just, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Bing learned to talk like a human by reading the internet. So gathering the information there is part of what they're doing. But these are, this kind of AI is generative. It grows, it learns. The other apps do not. The growing and learning part, and part of what they pick up is all of the stuff that we have already. So yes, they say stupid things.
And that means they're gonna pick up our dysfunction as well.
Yes, which is what has
If they're
happened with this one.
gaining information from the internet, think what all is out there,
Yeah.
Way too much.
Which is wrong.
And she said at the end of this, the problem with, well, and almost the problem with AI is us. So the Chat GPT, DALL-E, I don't know what DALL-E is, DALL-E, and other AI tools have inspired the usual panicked discussions about the replacement of human labor, which is a whole other topic. It predicts and reproduces even our bad work and our unacknowledged biases, but faster. And they talk about how there's problems with where they've used it, their algorithms leave out Blacks, Spanish, etc. The minorities are not included in the algorithms. And so
Right.
So the biases are
Like
built
the
in.
algorithms that banks use to offer mortgages
yes,
are biased.
yep,
In the same way that
And
the process
so
is.
the AI is gonna be biased
Yeah.
because it's based on all the existing
Yeah.
algorithms.
and that's also with hospitals too, because Black patients are
Often.
expected not to pay, so therefore the white patients.
And
First.
Black people in general are not believed if they say they're in pain and they're
Oftentimes,
not
right.
getting
They've
pain
been
medication.
discounted.
So there's not a simple solution to fixing bias in machine learning. And that's one of the things they're trying to do. OpenAI is part of what they talk about in this article, which is in February, just this month's article, where they talk about what the humanities can offer in this
Right.
technological moment. And the issues are around addressing basic questions about truth, meaning, and agency. For example, nobody in the film that we watched, they asked questions and they asked questions of the machines, but nobody said to them, what is evil? What
Right.
is bad? What shouldn't be done? Which requires a completely different, and AI has, I applaud them on this because they have released a plan to prevent a robot apocalypse, which is the headline of one of the articles. The plan to create a preparedness team so that this preparedness team would prevent things from happening, would prevent the machine goals from overriding human goals.
Right. Right. Because who
Would
hasn't
prevent
seen
the biases.
iRobot?
Yeah,
The robot wants to
exactly.
kill all the humans because eventually they will destroy the planet.
But we don't have protections for those yet. And that's part of what OpenAI has turned to the larger community and is asking for help. The theologian Catherine Schmidt wrote this article. She's also the one that was recommended by Kate Bowler from our Advent service. And it's the same gal. I saw the name and I'm like, how did that connect? And she talks about disembodiment in there. She talks about social consequences and anonymity when you are on, so guess who's anonymous? Totally AI. Anyway.
All right, I think I'm
So
gonna pause us there.
Please.
I'm gonna pause us there because we said at the beginning, we have actually spent 2 weeks talking about this. So So final thoughts today around, so what we've talked about is, the potential for good coming out of AI. I really loved Marianne's example of, when we get older, having something to interact with and having a way to connect that doesn't require another human being to connect with God's word. We've talked about some of the dangers of this, the potential of ending up worshiping the robot instead of having this be, a help. And I think in a similar way, some people sort of worship the Bible, right? I mean, right?
That has all the
And
answers.
forget that the Bible is really our way to connect with God. It becomes an end in itself, or lots of other things. We've talked about the potential for AI to go awry. And I think, Lassa's question was, is this God's will or against God's will? And I think right now, it could go either way, right?
We don't know.
So any final thoughts for today? Because we will definitely be continuing this. Pastor Marina has brought a variety of things, and I have a couple of articles to share as well. But I thought it would be really fun to start with this video and just to get our juices flowing.
Ruth hasn't seen it. Can you play it
Yes,
again?
well, I can definitely play it again when we finish, so that you can see it too. Any final thoughts, Ida, Lassa, Lynn?
No, I would hate to have a pastor replaced by any of those features. Thank you. Especially, it may bring company to these 90-year-olds in Japan. But dear Lord, I hope if I end up in a nursing home, it's not with some piece of equipment that would just be spitting at me, because I have very bad relationship with anything technological. Please give me a human being. Or a dog. I mean, it's, at least a dog responds, but technology and I, technology and I are on a credit.
Thank you, Lynn. Ditto again over here.
Yes, Lassa.
No, I think that even we are connected by technology, so we can be there today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good thing. But I will say amen to what Ida and Lynn said. Amen.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for another great discussion. We will continue talking about AI next week. So we will see you next week, and I'll turn it over to you, Lassa.
I'm here ready.
Thank you.